Welcome to Study Loop.
This example is allowing us to compare the conditions in which trade gains are possible. We're told that German workers take 400 hours to produce one car and 2 hours to produce one case of wine, and that French workers take 600 hours to produce one car and X hours to produce one case of wine. So let's start by comparing these production hours to one another. We want to find this ratio of producing a car to producing a case of wine. So let's start with Germany. And with Germany, what we see is that it takes them these 400 hours to produce a car, and it takes them 2 hours to produce a case of wine. So if we divide that by one another, we get 200 hours. Now 200 hours here is essentially the ratio between these two productions. And this is going to be this key piece of information, these 200 hours that we're going to need to remember moving forward. So now if we wanted to calculate the same ratio but for these French workers, we're going to take the 600 hours that we know it takes them to produce a car, because that was given to us, divided by X hours to produce a case of wine. And we're going to set this equal to that 200 hours that we just found for Germany. Because if this ratio is equal to 200, that tells us that they have the same opportunity costs. But what we know for trade gains to occur is that we must have differing opportunity costs. If the opportunity costs are the same between the two countries, there will be no benefit to trade. So let's now solve for X right here, and what that'll give us is what X cannot be equal to. So if we solve for X, we get that X is equal to 3 hours, right? Because 600 divided by 3 gives us 200. So if X is equal to 3 hours, they will not benefit from trade, which means in order for trade gains to occur, we need X to not be equal to 3 hours. And that would be the condition that will allow trade gains to occur. Now, for part B, we want to find the value for X for which Germany will export cars. Now, if Germany is exporting cars, that means that they have the lower opportunity cost in car production as compared to these French workers. So, what we just calculated up top, that 400 divided by 2 and 600 divided by 3, that really was giving us these opportunity costs. So, in order for Germany's to be lower than France's, what we need is for X to be 3 hours or less. So if X is less than or equal to 3, what would happen is Germany would export cars. But actually, like we just said, that X cannot equal to 3, so that would be, we actually need to say that X needs to be less than 3 hours. And if you wanted to check this, we can start to plug this into that function. So we had these 600 hours divided by X hours. And we can plug in any value. So if we plugged in 2 right here, we get a value which is equal to 300 hours. And what you can see is that this 300 hours is greater than Germany's 200 hours. It's greater than their ratio, which means that Germany has this comparative advantage because their opportunity cost is less than France's. So what we can say here is that the values for X for which Germany will export cars is any value which is less than 3 hours.